A very good evening to all present. I'm Riya Rathi, founder and director of latestlaws.com. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Team Latest Laws to today's Lexidum webinar, which is organized in collaboration with Lawyers Wit and Virtual Lawyer on the topic Institutionalization of Legal Services with special emphasis on victim compensation. Today, we are highly privileged to have with us Ms. Shreya Arora Mehta, Judge in the Delhi Judicial Services. She is Secretary of Delhi Legal Services Authority, South District. She joined the Judicial Service in 2010, and in last 10 years, she has worked as Metropolitan Magistrate and as a Civil Judge in Delhi. Before becoming a judge, Ms. Mehta gained diverse experience in the field of law as practicing lawyer and as a law researcher in the Delhi High Court. During her law school, she also worked as Dean's Researcher and Trainee Researcher at CBI. She believes in dedication, hard work, and perseverance. Ms. Mehta secured first position in Delhi Judicial Services examination. She aced law school at the top of her class. An all-rounder, she is also recipient of numerous awards and medals in national as well as international moot court and essay writing competitions. She holds a master's degree in the field of law. A voracious reader, she has many publications to her credit in the field of human rights, cybercrime, criminal justice process, victimology, child abuse and violence, environment law, sexuality and oppression, and alternate dispute resolution. We are very grateful to you, ma'am, for sparing your time and joining us for today's webinar. This webinar is being telecasted live on Latest Law's Facebook page and YouTube channel as well. The webinar and the viewers can send in their questions via the comment section. They will be taken up at the end of the session. Now I would request Shreya ma'am to commence her address.
Thank you so much, Shreya. And of course, to hear from a spirited person like you who has been holding so many webinars in the field of legal education. So many congratulations to you for the work which you're doing. And now coming over to the topic for the today. Topic which has been streamlined for today has been institutionalization of legal services. Why this topic? We all are professionals. We all may be lawyers, we all may be judges, we all may be law researchers, but how this legal services function. So even if you're not part of a legal services authority, but somewhere within you, and especially during this time, I have seen many people came forward with their philanthropic nature. They said, we need to give back to the society. And many learned lawyers who are having good standing, they wish to give it back to the society. So how this legal services function, legal services authority function, I would just be discussing with each one of you today. And with special emphasis, which of course, Janvi emphasized, that people really need to know about the victim compensation. So I said, yes, which is happening very much in Delhi and in fact in other states of our country, but there is less awareness on this topic. So I'm glad that all of you have joined us today and you're here to listen about this topic. So I would be discussing both these topics with you. So coming back to the, one second, I'll just. So when we talk about legal services, what comes to your mind? How and where it got its genesis from? I often say it to the people, they often ask me that how these, and there are many people I meet and they're not aware of the Legal Services Authority, operational at the grassroots level, operational at the Supreme Court, at the High Court, and everywhere. They're just not aware of it. But let me just bring it to your awareness that it finds its genesis to the Constitution of India. When we read the preamble, it stipulates straight away, justice including social, economic, political. So that's the promise in the preamble. Thereafter, when we come to Article 38, which requires that the state should make an effort to promote the welfare of the people by securing and protecting social order. And thereafter, Article 39A, which was not the part of the main constitution and which came much later, it was added by the 42nd Amendment in 1976, which imposed duty upon the state to promote justice on the basis of equal opportunity, as well as provide free legal aid to secure social justice. So with this, we know about, you all may be aware, there's an act which is called Legal Services Authority Act. This act was enacted far back in 1987. It came into force in the year 1995. So with this act came into way, the legal aid, the legal services was made guarantee to all the people who could not afford. That doesn't, by that, I do not mean that the lawyers who are working in their private capacity, that's really not allowed, or that's not the domain. So when I discuss with you, I would now in brief tell you how this authorities work. There is, most of you would have heard about NALSA. It's a very popular National Legal Services Authority. So National Legal Services Authority is at the Supreme Court level. So NALSA, under NALSA comes every state legal services authority. Like in Delhi, we have Delhi State Legal Services Authority. And under Delhi, like we have 11 districts in Delhi, we have different authorities for different districts. So if you see Supreme Court, National Legal Service Authority, then the Delhi State Legal Services Authority, and under that Delhi State Legal Services Authority, there is District Legal Services Authority, which you all know that the Delhi is divided into 11 districts. Like same way, I am heading at the moment the South District Legal Services Authority. There is similarly, there's another judge who's heading Southeast Legal Services Authority, North Legal Services Authority, Central Legal Services Authority, so on and so forth. But then it's important for you to know that what is the Constitution. So the Chief Justice of India is the patron in chief of National Legal Services Authority. And the executive chairperson is the first judge, the serving judge. And then there is a member secretary apart from other office and employees. Same way in the Delhi High Court, like for a High Court, we have Delhi State Legal Services Authority. We have Chief Justice of High Court, which is patron in chief. And then the first judge after, that's the executive chairperson. Like at present, we have Honorable Miss Justice Hema Kohli and member secretary, like that. So these are the people who hold this. And then in the districts, it's being headed by the judge. It's important for you to know who are the beneficiaries of free legal aid. So the reason I told you about this Legal Services Authority Act 1987, it stipulates everything with respect to the functions, with respect to the composition, with respect to the organization. Everything is stipulated in this act and the rules thereupon. When we talk about section 12 therein, any person who is a member of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, any person who's a transgender with annual income less than 2 lakhs, any person whose income is less than 2 lakhs, or who's a victim of human trafficking or a beggar, women or children for that matter. There is no cap of income for women at all. All women are entitled to free legal aid. Industrial workmen, victim of mass disaster, senior citizen with annual income less than 2 lakhs, differently abled person, a person in custody, child in protective home, mentally ill person, they're all entitled to free legal aid. So anyone who is in jail or is going to jail, we all know, and I'd like to refresh your memory that they are entitled to a lawyer. And post this Kasab judgment, then the remand advocate of the Legal Services Authority are always present in the court of the Metropolitan Magistrates. So even if the private lawyer is yet to reach the court and somehow the police makes the production of the alleged accused beforehand, so the remand advocate will, of course, represent that person before the Metropolitan Magistrate. So this is with respect to the beneficiaries of free legal aid. Now the functions, they're very important. There are a lot of people who ask me, what are the functions and how do they go about that? Because there are different things which we do. First and foremost is the legal aid. We assure free, competent, effective, and comprehensive legal services to the weaker sections. Weaker section, I mean, the section 12, which I just told you, which talks about the beneficiaries of legal aid. Then there are a lot of, because there are people, like as lawyers and law researchers, you all would know, there are people who know the doors of courts very easily. They find it convenient to come to the court. But the kind of society we live in, we know there are a lot of people who still do not wish to go to the court. And there may be a lot of women who may be facing domestic violence concerns, but they do not want to go to the police station or to the courtroom. So they're just not comfortable doing that. So for that purposes, what we do is we have legal aid clinic in schools and colleges. We do have these legal aid clinics where weekly or maybe once, twice, or thrice a week. One second, I'll just continue. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So what we were saying was that we have these legal clinics where people actually visit, like schools. I remember when we had this legal literacy camp and camp clinic set up. So there were a lot of parents who opened up. There were a lot of teachers. So they require legal help, maybe in form of a landlord tenancy dispute, or maybe in a form of any domestic concern. So they often resort here. And in fact, for differently abled, there is a concern, like they all need a certificate. And they need a certificate by a disabled board from a government hospital. So last year when we went into the same, we identified few cases and we could see that there is a concern of the differently abled students that they're not able to get the certificates issued. So here through the legal aid clinic, the Legal Service Authority stepped up and the requisite certificates were provided and they were speedily provided. Then, of course, we have these legal aid clinics in jails. We have legal aid clinic in the children home. Like children home, I'm sure you all know, where the children in conflict with law or child in need of care and protection, they are kept. So there also we have clinics, legal aid clinics, where where of course their education and everything apart from their cases is taken care of. And then we have sensitization programs at community level and also from time to time. So that goes without saying, and which is the function. So we also organize Lok Adalats from time to time. And in the Lok Adalat, you all know, I have heard many people, they often know that the pending cases are taken up. Even the pre-litigation matters are taken up. So with this, we go ahead with the work. So when it comes to the panel advocates, the most important facet of a legal service authority is its panel advocates. We have different panel and different panel. We have requirement every year being issued, like last year we had. In fact, this year's requirement also is about to be notified. Anyone and everyone who is interested, so kindly tap on the website, because now I would be discussing about how the panel advocates get exposure with us, because that's the main institutionalization of the legal services. There's one facet to it. Before I begin the discussion on the same, the work of the panel lawyers, I will tell you a story which happened with me. I was holding a Metropolitan Magistrate Court and I got a new remand advocate. So he was very, very smart enough and he said that, ma'am, I am new to the system. I have done few criminal law cases, but I'm ready to learn. So, and being a remand advocate, I need to be in your court from 10 to 4. So whichever way you guide me, I will be doing the same. So I said, fine. So I said, go ahead. I could see his zeal, enthusiasm, his fairness to the work, the way he cross-examined, the way he prepared his cases before the under trial prisoner was brought from the lockup, the things which he did. In the meantime, I got transferred to this position of Legal Services Authority, South District only. So that very lawyer came to me to meet me and said, is there a way if I wish to resign? Because having this remand work from 10 to 5, I'm not able to focus on my private cases. So I said, looking back, the far back, you actually told me you have no cases of your own, and that's the reason you opted for the panel. He said, no, ma'am, I am ready to do pro bono work, but for few cases, because by my standing in the court, I have got so many clients that I'm not able to give them fair time. And hence I can only do limited cases, but not this time restricted work. So to me, that was the time I saw a confident and knowing it all criminal lawyer. And to me, he got full exposure in 2 years' time. Though we have a panel for 3 years, but he got full exposure of criminal law and the Court of Metropolitan Magistrate in 2 years. And he's having a very good name even at present. So that's the exposure which one gets through Legal Services Authority. By that, we do not say that you do not know anything and you come to us, we make you learn. We don't want you to learn at the cost of a poor person. So of course, the learning needs to be done at your own end. Of course, you have to study and for the interview, because there are a lot of people who are applying, and now interview from time to time is getting tough. So it's not an easy interview to crack, I often say. So of course, once I remember, then there was someone who asked me that, why do you ask questions on law? I said, of course, we will ask you questions on law, because our requirement is 18 advocates in the criminal panel, and we have got application from 200 advocates. So we are privileged enough that we have got so many applications so that we can screen the best of the lot for the people who cannot afford lawyers. So this way. So coming back to the role which we play, apart from free legal aid to the weaker section of the society, we also provide support persons for assisting victims and their family. So there is this campaign, it's called Sampark, where the FIRs of sexual offenses are mailed to us, and within 24 hours they are mailed to us, and then we give them a counselor and a support person who makes sure that the victim is knowing about the legal services available, victim compensation, and if she requires the compensation, then the file is accordingly moved ahead. We also make sure that the free medical services are reached there for the victims. If they require one, they can always approach the concerned authority. I've already told you we do legal awareness program. We have one-stop centers in courts and hospitals. Like earlier, what used to happen, like whenever a victim has to come to the court for the 164 statement. So one side she's appearing before the court for recording a 164 statement. The other side, the accused is being represented like for his remand. So the coming of the accused and the victim face to face was not a good idea. So for that reason, we all have one-stop centers where the magistrates who have to record the 164 statement, they come there and record the statements. So the victim need not go from the magistrate to the link magistrate to the chamber of the link magistrate. So if the IU gets the victim to the court, the IU would be making the victim sit in the one-stop center. And in the one-stop center, there are counseling services if she requires. There would be someone to apprise her with respect to victim compensation. And then the magistrate would be recording her 164 statement. So we have a 24/7 helpline. Like I remember I was interacting with school students and they were asking me something regarding, I said, feel free to dial 1516. And in case you're not able to reach 1516, you have to tell us, because we also do at times call them. And if there is no response, then we of course get onto it. But then yes, it's very important, like if you are not understanding anything, or at least for the people who approach you as a client, for your clients, and if you do not wish to continue with their case, and they are actually they're following into this category of the beneficiaries of legal aid, please guide them and direct them to the Legal Services Authority in the concerned courts so that they can get the best of lawyers for themselves, or at least you can guide them with this helpline number 1516. In fact, I would like to mention that the number of beneficiaries in 2019 was around 77,000, so which came to the legal services. So coming back to the other facet, which is legal services to the prisoners, very important. So lawyers on call basis are available at each police station. So if someone says that I need a lawyer and I require that lawyer, so on call basis with every police station, there's a designated lawyer. So anyone who's arrested, they can say, like we all have seen in series, and it's very nice to see those series. And I often interact with college students and they say, oh, this mechanism doesn't exist in our country. I said, I'm so sorry. You have failed to read about this mechanism and you have failed to practically experience this mechanism. So this mechanism do exist in our country, which is on call basis, advocates available at police stations, remand advocates being there in every court. You all may be knowing, the ones who are visiting the Court of Metropolitan Magistrate. There's an under trial review committee, which is as per the order of the Supreme Court of India and High Court of Delhi, which is headed by the learned district and session judge of the concerned district, along with the DCP of the concerned district, along with the DM of the concerned district, along with the Secretary of the Legal Services Authority. So there are, during this COVID time, the under trial review committee actually meets weekly. Earlier we used to meet monthly, but then during this COVID time, because there was, you all may be aware that there were bail applications being filed and the way it happened and the monitoring of those bail applications was required. So we had weekly, we are continuing to have weekly meetings even as of now. So video conference facilities are available at the Office of Legal Services Authority. So the panel advocates who are representing those prisoners, they can often come to our court and they can request for the legal services for the video conference at the jail. We can always organize one from them. This is apart from the jail visiting advocate, which we have in our jails. Every authority has one, like my South District Legal Services Authority, we have jail number 3. And like my advocates on rotation basis, they go there for drafting of the application and for other necessary guidance to the prisoners. So this is apart from that, the video conference facilities also available. So there is a mental wellness clinic, which has also been established at the jails now. So this is, and also the Center for Learning. So this is the work of the Legal Service Authority is not restricted to the legal aid. Yes, but then with the prison authorities, we have joined hands to make sure that there's a wellness clinic and there's a Center for Learning and so on and so forth. Children, I've already discussed with you. Legal services to children, we have told you that we have panel lawyers at juvenile justice boards and child welfare committees who appear for these children. We have these regular visits by our panel lawyers to these children homes where there's children in conflict with law and children in need of care and protection reside. And the most important facet is, I think, the legal services for senior citizens, because we have a mandate of finishing their cases speedily with respect to the senior citizens. But then having, at times what happens is that these programs, awareness program, the discussions from time to time, that also goes a long way with senior citizens. So we have set up 9 maintenance tribunals, like at the office of the DM, like I also have a help desk there. So though under the Act for the maintenance for parents and senior citizens by their children, there is no mandate for a lawyer appearing. But then often these parents come, senior citizens, and they really do not know how to draft the application. So with the DM offices, we have established this setup, and so that when they walk in, there is someone to guide them, and there was someone, at times it happens, even the counseling happened at that end, like the senior citizen is waiting for their turn and the child is there. So they often talk to each other through the help of the lawyer, panel lawyer sitting at the help desk at the tribunal. So they often land up in harmoniously and they settle their disputes. So that's the spirit of our panel lawyers has always been, that they, of course, they do things where there is litigating, the conflict in nature, they of course take it forward, but then wherever their relations can be saved, they do that as well. With this, I come to you all would be knowing with respect to the commercial courts, there is mediation now. It needs to be pre-litigation mediation, which needs to be conducted. That's also being convened by the Legal Services Authority, so which also we do. So that there also we have a mandate that if things can be solved and done before reaching the court, why not? It's important to exercise that mechanism. We also do courses for college students, not necessarily the law students, but other, like I have courses going on for Bhagat Singh College, that's in South District, Aurobindo College. So what we do with them is that we give them the basic legal knowledge about criminal law, civil law, women laws, and also about the, like these days we are doing virtual visits to the police stations and the legal service authority. Otherwise we used to have physical visits. So then what this does is that these college students are trained in such a way that when, as and when they receive a legal notice from the court, anytime, though they're not a lawyer, so they need not be scared of that legal notice. So they should know where to go. So that's very important. And that's one of the concerns. So we also have legal clinics at this IBHAS, and apart from universities, and we also have legal clinic at the Delhi Commission for Women, even district consumer forums, we have those, observation homes. So these, and another facet which I would like to discuss with all of you is the Lok Adalat. So there are a lot of, like recently we had Lok Adalat on this Sunday, and where we managed to take cases of 188 IPC, the charge sheets, as well as the 138 Negotiable Instruments Act and the criminal compoundable matters. So there was a good number which we did, and we are very, very, like our team of panel lawyers and the team of judges was so well trained that we did all, like in South District only, we managed to finish 1,500 cases, and that too virtually. So that's it about the Lok Adalat, in which we organize from time to time. So we have like different campaigns always going on, like we name them, we give them because we often do these campaigns with DM office and with the police officers and with lawyers, college students. So we always name those, like on waste management we had. So we named it this thing, that Zarurat of this, and we had this domestic violence. So we named it Shashat. We had one on safe and unsafe touch for children. So we named it Sparsh. So similarly, we had a module on sexual violence for children aged 14 to 18 years as to how they can protect themselves from the virtual world. And while, of course, we all know the virtual classes are going on, but of course, when you close your classes, the virtual world attracts even us. So the children are obviously attracted to the virtual world. So you all would be knowing that we have, with respect to this toll-free number 1516, we made sure that the people know about it. So when we made it reach this number, we had the metro wrapping so that the people can know about this toll-free helpline number. We also organized the rally, cycle rally once. So, and we took this rally to the area where the people weren't aware of the legal lawyers available, legal aid lawyers. So we do that. We do panel training programs, like the way all of you are doing this webinar. So even we have resorted to webinars for training of our panel lawyers and how they can be updated, because this corona pandemic has brought a lot of challenges. And for next 3 to 5 years, we all would be having those challenges. So with respect to the civil contracts, everything, and in fact, with respect to the interim bails granted. So yes, we train them from time to time to deal with those challenges as to what lie ahead. And now the important thing which I need to come, which is important, which is victim compensation, because we decided, but then before I come to the victim compensation, anyone and everyone who is, you may be law researcher, you may be law student, or you may be a lawyer, I would of course motivate you, encourage you to be the part of the legal services authority where you're comfortable. Like if you are, your representation is more in High Court, then be the part of the Delhi High Court Legal Services Committee. But then if you are in the district courts, it depends which district court, Saket, Patiala House Court, Dwarka, Rohini, Peace Hazari, Rouse Avenue, whichever you're part of. So try to be the part of the legal services there, because A, there is a lot of exposure. B, it actually gives you different, basically, even I used to say that when you deal with a case, you always have A versus B. But then when you deal with such a legal services authority case, what happens is that you're doing an awareness program. You are even sitting at clinic sometime. You're doing everything sometime, and then you're also dealing with that case. So when you sit at the clinic and when you deal with the case, you actually have the 360-degree view of the grassroots level. So it's easier, and it's the exposure is such that you are actually able to fairly represent the party. And then of course the payment with respect to the panel lawyers is not less. It's of course visible, but we know many lawyers who don't accept those payments, and in fact they say that we do not want to accept this payment and we want to do pro bono work. So, but then of course, even if you accept the payments, that's fine. That's person to person. But it's important for you to give your best to the legal aid beneficiary, because that legal aid beneficiary is not able to afford a lawyer, and through you, that person is getting a lawyer. So coming to the victimology part, of course. Before I come with this witness protection, I will discuss victim compensation. I will also give you a little brief about witness protection scheme. This witness protection, of course, it requires another session in itself. It was earlier with Legal Services Authority, and it was because we all know in India, witnesses are challenged. They are threatened, and it is difficult for them to reach the court. But then as a lawyer or as a professional, you should know how can you provide them help. So of course, it's another facet and another topic in itself, but in brief, I will tell you, of course, it's the concerned court where you need to inform, number one. And number two, at every district, there is a authority which is headed by the district judge of the concerned district. And the complaint can either be given to the chief public prosecutor of the district or the office of the district and session judge. So if there is any challenge, apart from the application in the court. So this is what I thought in brief, at least I should touch upon this topic, because earlier witness protection was with Legal Services Authority. Now the scheme of 2018 gives it to the district and session judge, along with the chief public prosecutor of that district, along with the DCP of the area. So coming to the victim compensation. We have a victim compensation scheme of 2018, an important scheme which is there, and it, of course, I hope I have enough time because it's going to take a bit for me to cover. So it's important for the eligibility for the compensation under the scheme, the person should be a victim or his dependent. Where in cases the victim has died, the dependents are entitled to the compensation. Second, loss or injury must have been caused. There has to be an offense. There are a lot of people who come to us and they say, I said, no FIR has been registered, there's been no offense. How can you expect the compensation to be given to you under the victim compensation scheme of 2018? And the person requires rehabilitation. The person is in requirement. And lastly, not have been compensated under any other scheme. That's another facet. So if the case is covered under the Motor Vehicles Act, like there are accident cases where the Motor Vehicles Act, the insurance and payment has been done, in those cases, the scheme would not come into the prevail and there would be no compensation granted. But where supposedly there's an untrace, and untrace application is accepted by the Court of Metropolitan Magistrate or MACT court. So in that scenario, an application can be made to the concerned Legal Services Authority for grant of compensation. I just mentioned about the eligibility. It is important for there to be an offense. So the scheme defines offense. Any offense mentioned in Indian Penal Code or any other law for the time being in force. So with that, the offense is important. So acid attack cases, it's very important part of the scheme which we have. It provides for the interim relief to the victims. And in case of acid attack victim, rupees 1 lakh needs to be paid within 15 days. And the order of granting compensation is to be passed within 7 days. And additionally, within the next 2 months, 2 lakhs needs to be paid. So in fact, this is what the scheme says, but I will share with you my personal experience. I remember because this is in terms of the judgment of the Supreme Court, Lakshmi versus Union of India. So I remember there was a case in Sangam Vihar, so where we gave 1 lakh within 3 days of the incident, and we also assured free medical treatment with aims to be given to the person. And then within next 15 days, because we took the, of course, we don't want to give money to the family and then we do not know what's happening. But depending on the, basically depending on the condition of the person, so we assessed that and we gave the further 2 lakhs rupees. So that's always given because acid attack victims require these for medical, because even if the medical treatment is made free, so medicines or maybe some food requirement, something needs to be addressed. So for that, the interim relief is given in a speedy manner. So we also, it's very important. So 1 lakh within 15 days for acid attack victim, additional 2 lakhs within 2 months, compensation of 1 lakh under PM National Relief Fund, and additional special financial assistance up to rupees 5 lakhs who need treatment expenses over and above the compensation paid. So anyone who that can, they can of course approach the authority. It's very important for me to, because people often ask me with respect to the scheme is divided into part 1 and part 2. Initially it was not, but now it's very streamlined and the way it is made. So the part 1 actually deals with, it's the earliest scheme which we had. And part 2 is very specific. Part 2 is with respect to the women victim and survivors of sexual assault. So how the compensation has to be dispersed to them, that's addressed in both the parts. And at the end of the parts, both the part 1 and part 2, there is a schedule as to the minimum compensation to the maximum compensation, the grounds, the things which we need to see before granting the compensation is actually, it's very clearly stipulated. So if you see with respect to the, I'll just explain those to you. So factors to be considered while awarding compensation. So the gravity of the offense, severity of mental or physical harm or injury suffered by the victim, expenditure incurred or likely to be incurred on the medical treatment, loss of educational opportunity, impact on employment as a result of the offense, relationship of the victim to the offender, whether the abuse was a single isolated incident, whether the victim contracted a sexually transmitted disease, whether the victim contracted HIV, any disability suffered by the victim as a result of the offense, financial condition of the victim, financial loss to the victim or dependent. In case of death, the age of deceased, his monthly income, life expectancy, future promotion, growth prospects, etc., or any other factor which the legal service authority may consider just and sufficient. So this is the factors which are considered while awarding compensation. But when I come to the interim relief, so for that, it's actually the immediate need. For interim relief, we just see whether there is any immediate medical need or any other financial need, immediate. So that's seen and assessed by the Legal Services Authority, depending on the same interim relief, which is because now when you read the section 13 of this scheme, it provides for the same. Earlier, it was the Delhi state, so it talk about the same with the immediate need, but there's a provision with respect to it, which says provided that the interim relief so granted shall not be more than 50,000 in case of extreme hardship and gravity of the offense. Acid attack, I've already told you. But then the part 2 of the scheme, it's different. Part 2 of the scheme, like I said, like I shared with you with respect to the women survivors and women victim. For them, the interim relief is different. I'll just read that to you also. So for them, the interim relief so granted shall not be less than 25% of the maximum compensation awarded as per the schedule. So if you see the schedule, like in a loss of rape, it's 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs. So maximum is 10 lakhs. So 25% of 10 lakhs as interim compensation. So which is 2,50,000. And similarly, like for rape, it's 7 lakh rupees. So 25% maximum compensation is 7 lakhs. So 25% of this 7 lakhs would be considered for the grant of interim compensation. Interim compensation is during the pendency of the trial. So, and another important facet which I would discuss with all of you and which often comes to us is like the brother and sister asking for compensation. So the scheme is envisioned and made in such a way that only wife, husband, father, mother, grandmother, grandparents, unmarried daughter, and minor children are covered. So brother, sister not covered under this scheme. So you can file the application in the concerned court. So you can straight away, wherever the matter is pending, the file, they will send it to the District Legal Service Authority. You can straight away go to the District Legal Service Authority and file there. Even the SHO can send us in writing that this is the case where there's a problem. Like right now, these days, of course, we have this Sampark FIRs reaching us within 24 hours. So of course, we act out of our own free will that yes, this needs to be addressed and we take care of those. So method of disbursement of compensation is another important facet. Like we do not give the full amount as it is. When we grant the final compensation, so we say that the 75% of the compensation awarded is to be put in fixed deposit for a minimum period of 3 years. And in the case of minor, 80% has to be put in the fixed deposit. And so with respect to, so the basically minor it's 80% and for others it's 75%. So the remaining is available for utilization and initial expenses. So that's all. Dependency certificate, everything. Appeal can of course be filed. We have already dealt with the same once the order is passed. So what happens is that this inquiry actually takes 60 days. But then it all depends on the papers, because many a times the file which come before the Legal Services Authority, the papers are missing from that. So then basically if a differently able person or disabled person has come, they don't have a certificate. So that certificate at times take time, or maybe the person is not coming forward to give us the full file papers. So in that scenario, of course, it goes above 60 days. And there are many cases where we actually send notices to the parties and they actually don't come forward, maybe because of the change of address, but then we keep sending them through the local police. So that of course takes time. And there's a committee in every district which does the inquiry and which takes care of it, and then the verification is done by the concerned IO. And so these days, many very important facet is the refund. So if the case results in the acquittal, so the refund can also be made. The recovery suit can be filed because you have to refund the compensation. Anyone who has taken it the interim, they have to refund it. So it's the schedule which is attached with the this scheme. You can see that there it stipulates the particulars of the loss or injury. Like I just said, loss of life. There is minimum compensation 3 lakhs, maximum 10 lakhs. Unnatural sexual assault 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. Loss of any limb or part of body resulting in 80% permanent disability 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs, and so on and so forth. Physical abuse of minor 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. So victims of burning, victim of acid, the schedule stipulates the amount of compensation which is to be disbursed. So yes, this is with respect to the amount of the compensation, and then this is all which is important. Of course, there are a lot of people who meet me often and they say that in India, I often apprise them that in India, it is often seen that the victimology is not prevalent and the victim has no say, but that's not at present. Maybe far back in 2002, 2004, there was, but now the victims are guided. There are legal service authority lawyers who are guiding them. And in fact, I've seen there are a lot of private lawyers also appearing for them, and they often guide them with the system. Of course, with the chief public prosecutor, I've often seen that the application is moved and the private lawyers also represent them. And most of the time it's legal services advocate. So now the victims are equally properly represented. The compensation is given to them. So this is gone are the days when the victimology was not the concept in our criminal justice process. It is a process now. It is in function right now. So only thing is the awareness. So that has been missing. So that's all. You all can shoot up the questions on me now. I'm ready to address those.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a truly enriching webinar. I mean, I cannot tell you how thankful I am for you to have come today, taken out time from your busy schedule to give this to us, because honestly, a lot of stuff that you have said today and all the information you have given to us, we would not know this unless we had attended a webinar. And I speak for a lot of us, especially when it comes to victim compensation. That is something that is rarely even talked about. So one of the major and most important questions I would like to ask you today is that, like you spoke to us about victim compensation in detail and how it works and what is the system. So how do we make this awareness among the common population? Because many a times we find that the people are not aware that there is such a provision. So how do we tell them?
It's actually very important. Like because our panel lawyers, what we do is we do it with schools, colleges, and we have community PLVs, paralegal volunteers. So we often encourage, we keep doing. In fact, there is a recent order of my district from the High Court. So I got it today. And as soon as I got that in my hand, I was like, okay, I need to have one more awareness program on victim compensation for the judges. So of course, we need to do awareness programs about the victim compensation scheme for judges, lawyers, society, community workers, everyone. So when people know about it, then they're able to guide them. So we, like in the Legal Service Authority, I think in this January, we did it with police officers. So we keep repeating those. So like today only I decided that we need to have it with judges, we need to have it with lawyers, we need to have it with police officers, because if they are aware, there's a possibility that they can actually guide the person who is a victim. And then of course these material regarding the same is available on the website, but very few people who are in need, they have access to it. So of course at community we do these awareness programs, but yes, and the number of applications which we receive, that's actually one example that we are able to reach the public.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Another very important question is that, like you spoke about victim compensation in monetary terms, but for example, if the compensation is like loss of education in a private school, or loss of employment in a private settlement, or what if the medical bills are of a private hospital, not of a government hospital, and there is a parity between the amount of compensation that can be awarded and the amount of loss they have suffered. So what is the remedy in that particular situation?
No, but you're saying with respect to the parity in the grant of compensation.
Yes.
No, there's a lot of parity now, because with respect to when you see this scheme which we have and which is prevalent in India, and this scheme has been drafted by National Legal Service Authority. This is prevalent in every state of India. And this scheme has a schedule attached to it as to the minimum compensation which needs to be granted and the maximum. So when it comes to the maximum compensation, like I stated with you, the attributes and the grounds which we take in mind. And it's like a proper inquiry which Legal Service Authority does in the matter. So of course, the parity remains, because we all are like the Legal Service Authority, especially in Delhi, if I talk about, we all work as a team. So we all know, like I remember when the new scheme came into force, like for the women victims and the women survivors, now the interim relief has been made to the 25% of the maximum compensation. And before this scheme, the earlier scheme only stated about 50,000 maximum. So we all had a meeting with respect to it, that we need to do this. This is a change which has been brought by National Legal Service Authority, and this has been notified, and we have to bring this change together. So yes, we brought this change together. So parity, I feel, yes, there is parity, and that very few would be the cases where, of course, the right documents have not reached to the notice of because I've often seen, like, my experience has been like when these parties come before us, they come alone, and we ask them things and they give us the things. But when we grant them compensation, then they feel that maybe I would have been granted more. Then they go to the lawyer, the concerned lawyer guides them and they file a writ or an appeal. So often it comes that they come back to us because they, like the appellate authority or the court says, no, you can move the concerned district and they can again reassess it and you can come back. So I often say, and I often look at those documents and I'm like, why did you not give us this document before? So they were just not aware of it because they being of course, the layman, so they could not put forth and they did not know that they had this option. On that same note, there are similarly other cases where they are properly represented and there's a misuse. So there is a misuse. So that for that scenario, we have this refund also. So we have to take that facet also in mind. Yes.
Ma'am, last question. Like Delhi has a very comprehensive scheme, but is it true that not every other state in the country has similar comprehensive schemes, and that what according to you should be applied at a national level for victim compensation or for other states as well?
This is now because in this scheme which has come in 2018, this has been actually drafted by National Legal Service Authority. So this has been notified. To my utmost knowledge, this has been notified in almost all states of India.
Okay.
Because I remember I got one letter from the Supreme Court from NALSA that with respect to its implementation. So I suppose that if letter had been addressed to Delhi, it would have been addressed to all states. So when they're taking a tab with respect to its implementation, it would be implemented in all states. But yes, of course, the implementation, I do not know. Of course, in Delhi, it's very streamlined. We make sure because the way our office, the central office which we have, which functions, and the 11 districts office which we function, and every monthly a tab is given as to how many new filed, how many disposed of. So when you have to give these numbers every month, so as a judicial officer, you have this responsibility to dispose them off as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for a truly enriching webinar, and I feel something that is very important for everyone to know about in this country. I think legal services is doing a great job, and I myself personally am a big fan of the legal aid movement in India. And now I would like to hand over to Tarveer Singh Nanda to give the formal vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I, Tarveer Singh Nanda, am the founder of Lawyers Red Group. I thank you all for joining us today. I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Ms. Shreya Arora Mehta ma'am, firstly for taking out time from her busy schedule, and secondly for conducting such an informative session and explaining the intricacies of such an important topic. Not only the law students, although lawyers would benefit out of this, but this will surely reach out to the needy and downtrodden. We are very grateful to you, ma'am, for this session. I would like to thank the team of Lawyers Red, Virtual Lawyer, and Latest Laws. My special thanks to Professor Dr. Manjula Batra, Janvi Sharma, Govind Chaturvedi, Riya Rathi, and Divyansh for today's session. Thank you so much, everyone.